Marriage is supposed to be built on trust and love and empathy. But when addiction creeps in, all that stuff can be lost. It tears marriages apart seam by seam. On this episode, we have a couple that comes on and they talk about how addiction was running rampant in their marriage and it was almost over. But they took action, they took responsibility, and they did what they had to do for the sake of their marriage and their children. And now their marriage is more powerful than it ever has been years before. Alcoholism and addiction does not need to define your marriage. In fact, it is a pivotal moment for your marriage to totally transform. And this is a direct representation of it. You're not going to want to miss this. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Marshall.
Hello.
And we have Marshall's wife, Abby. Abby, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com, and ultimately we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, friends?
Yeah, that's right. Message, yeah.
Marshall's like, yep.
Right on.
How you guys doing? Good?
Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah.
So let me do an intro here. Marshall was on the show episode 401. And in fact, it's been a year within the week, we said.
Yeah.
Been some bumps in the road, but we're going to get to that. So make sure you go and check it out, episode 401. I'll link it in the show notes. And Abby, his wife, is here. And interestingly enough, I was standing in one of the offices downstairs and I just see these two walking right by the window. I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even know they were in town. So, you know, me always looking for a good opportunity to get an interview in. I'm like, you know what I'm going to ask you guys? To do the podcast.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here we are, 8:30 on a Friday morning. So I want to jump right into it. And we're going to start with you, Abby.
Okay.
Take us on a journey back to when we first started conversing about this.
Okay.
Keep in mind that our listener base a lot of times is spouses, family members. I mean, you listen, you know, you see the, you're in, I think, the Facebook groups too. So take us on a journey when we first connected, like kind of what was going on with you specifically.
Okay.
And then we're going to go from there.
By the time that you and I had talked, do you want me to go back further than that, like whenever we were still at home a little bit, or?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about kind of like what it was like with Marshall. Take us maybe the last, call it 2 years.
Sure. Okay. So we had decided to move to North Carolina. We had decided that we just were ready for a move. I had the promise of a good job in North Carolina, and we had family that lived there. And so we just thought it would be nice for a change for the kids. So by that time, Marshall was drinking. We have had a period in our marriage where he was not drinking at all. I need to say that. So for like the first 18, 19 years, alcohol was not really something that was a part of our marriage. Like it was at home, but we never really drank it a whole lot. Sometimes he'd have a beer with dinner, you know. I would say for us, COVID changed everything for us with Marshall being at home, working from home. I would slowly start to notice that, like, we had a liquor cabinet, and some things we had in there for years, and all of a sudden, like, the cabinet was just empty. And we just have always had a mutual respect for each other where, you know, if I would ask him, you know, where's this at? He'd be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's fine. Never really thought much about it. You know, thought he was going through a rough patch or whatever. Didn't really think that much about it. And we were gearing up for the move. And I knew for sure by that point that he was consuming way too much. never in my mind did I ever really think that he really had a problem. Marshall has always been a very strong-willed person. He went to a restaurant at one point, maybe 20 years ago, and ate a hamburger and got appendicitis and has never gone back because he swears the restaurant. Like, that's how strong-willed he is. Hasn't stepped foot back in that restaurant.
Because it gave me appendicitis.
It did not. Anyway, so that's what I mean. Like, when Marshall puts his mind up to something, it is just like trying to, you just can't do it. So, like, whenever he said it wasn't a problem, I just thought, oh, he'll get over it. No big deal. So we gear up for the move and are moving, and I realize that I'm finding little bottles in the backseat of the truck. I'm finding them in the garage. You know, like these little, I don't know what size those are, but
Like
just
a pint?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would find little brown bags everywhere. I think at that point I was just annoyed that he was like, why are you doing this? This doesn't even, completely like over my head, did not even realize that it was a problem. Truly, just, I was more annoyed that he was being irresponsible, more so than anything. So we pack up and we move. And I'm noticing that Marshall is taking things inside the truck while we're driving. Like, and I'm like, this is
What do you
odd.
mean taking things? Like what?
Oh, like alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like drinking in the truck as you guys are driving down.
Yes.
Okay.
Not while we're on the road, but at a pit stop.
Yeah.
You know, here and there, he would take a swig of it. And I think we were just on an emotional roller coaster from leaving home. And again, I was mad at him. Never even occurred to me that he was an alcoholic. It just was like more irresponsible behavior that I could not understand. And he just wanted to have fun and have a good time, right?
Hey, look, having somebody in your life that is addicted to drugs or alcohol, it can be stressful. We totally get it. We've navigated hundreds, if not thousands of situations just like yours. This is why we developed the Family Reconnect program with you in mind, the family member or loved one. I call it the ever-changing landscape of addiction, and it can be stressful. A lot of times you get angry, frustrated, worried, scared, just a lot of emotion, but you need support. You need people like us and your peers that can come alongside you to help you navigate this situation. This is why we put this program together. We meet every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. We're a few weeks in now, and it's an absolute blast. We love it, and we want to invite you there. So if this is something that you're interested in, go to realrecoverytalk.com/FRC, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
And then we get down to North Carolina, and, you know, I'm realizing that he's consuming more. My sister is realizing he's consuming more. And I, at that point, whenever I realized that she was realizing something, then I was like, oh, you know, this is really bad.
So your sister lives in North Carolina?
She does.
Okay.
Yep. And at that point, I was embarrassed because I was like, I can't, you know, now what? Like, I'm down here. And so then we're having arguments about, like, you've got to stop. Like, this is too much. And he knew that at that point. Like, he acknowledged it at that point. Like, man, I got to really slow down. This is getting kind of bad. We go through that almost like first 8 months of living there, or 6 months. And I'm trying to manage his alcoholism. Like, I am trying to, because he becomes kind of manic whenever he drinks. Just obnoxious. Obnoxious and manic. And I'm trying to manage that with being out in public. I'm trying to manage my kids because they now see a different version of their dad that they never knew growing up. And at that point, he lost his job. He lost his job in April. We got there in August. He lost it that following April. And again, I tried to manage his alcoholism by giving him a certain amount of alcohol through the day. Like, okay, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to give you this much, and it has to last you till I get home, because I knew that he was going to be going through withdrawal. And I tried to, and that worked for a little bit, but then I knew that he was going to the gas station and picking up pints of wine and like all these other things in the meantime. I just knew that he was. And at that point, my sister that lived down there said to me, "Have you ever thought about reaching out to Tom?" And honestly, it even occurred to me. I was like almost taken back, like, "Wow, you think it's really that bad?" And it was. And, I was not in a good way that way either, though. Like, I was just in utter devastation. He had just lost his job, and we had sold everything we had to move down there to try that. And I was just at a complete and devastating loss. So I was not mentally in a good way. So she did help me communicate with you at that point some. So that brought us to you coming here the first time.
All right. So let me fill in a couple gaps.
Uh-huh.
Well, not even gaps, just things I think the listeners would like to know.
Okay.
The three of us sitting here all went to high school together. So, and Abby and I used to party at the same house together.
We sure did.
I mean, this goes back, 30 years. I would have been 15 probably.
Yeah.
I was so young.
You were the baby.
Yeah.
You were the babe there.
And the listeners know, like I've talked about this, I always hung with a little bit older people, 4 or 5 years older than me. So anyways, Abby, the three of us here all have a deep relationship. And in fact, I went, Marshall, your brother is more closer to my age.
Yeah.
I think he graduated a year after me. So, and your sister, I think, graduated the same year as Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So when she reached out to me, I'm like, oh man, I got to figure something out. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's that hometown type thing. And where we grew up, it's like, it's not the greatest place to grow up. I mean, I don't know, in my opinion, where we went to school though was actually, in comparison to down here, is really good.
Yes.
I mean,
it's a great school,
great community. It's just, I suppose it's like, there wasn't a lot of opportunity, I suppose.
That's right.
Not a lot of things to do.
Right. Yeah.
Except
so
get in trouble.
Everybody found their way through alcohol.
Yeah.
The interesting part about what you shared is the first 15 to 18 years of your marriage, alcohol wasn't a thing.
Mm-mm.
So now I'm going to ask you, Marshall, and Abby, you said COVID was when things, you think from your perspective, that things really started to, Marshall, would you agree with that? And do you is there anything in what she shared in those 2 years that a different perspective, or pretty much is she spot on?
Yeah, she's right on. She's spot on. It was 2020.
What about 2020 and COVID in particular?
Well, I to help kind of contextualize it. I'm a nurse, and during 2020, I wasn't clinical at the time. I was doing a lot of case management type stuff, and I was in and out of a lot of doctors' offices. And during that time, we did a lot of, everything was shut down. We weren't leaving the house or anything. So it was all, we figured out how to do this position, remotely. So it was, like making a lot of phone calls to patients, really helping them kind of manage things, manage their health. remotely. And regardless of what, a lot of we can't ignore the fact that there was a lot of political things surrounding COVID,
Right.
and that's just that's kind of just a fact, and talking to so many people during the day where it's to them it's this it's all political, it's all just one big conspiracy, and to then talk to another person whose whose spouse had died of COVID last week, and to it's like this big emotional roller coaster, and that's just in like the healthcare side of things, trying to like surf this line to help people help like validate their concerns, like, sure, it's a conspiracy, yeah, sure, but yeah, it's a legitimate thing, it's a real thing. Trying to like navigate those waters, and then even like in a personal life, it's like the same thing. It's like trying to manage everybody's expectations around this, around this virus. And, at around that same time also, I'm like 40 years old, it like I had a difference of, or I had different, the things that I usually like to do was like changing my, the activities that I like to do. It was just like this big changing period. And it was a tough thing to kind of grapple with, like I was dealing with, personal convictions, that had been convictions, that I'd been used to my whole life. And, then I'm starting to like to change my mind on certain things. And, mostly it was,
Hey, everybody. This episode is brought to you by SoberLink. We decided to partner with SoberLink because it is a tool that we believe in. Now, here's a couple of things about SoberLink. Number one, it's not designed to catch you in a relapse. It's designed as an accountability tool. Now, there's a bunch of cool features with SoberLink that I think need to be discussed. Number one, it is tamper-proof. You can't mess with this thing. You can't break it. You can't fudge the results in any sort of way. It also has built-in facial recognition, so you can't just pass it off to your buddy and say, hey, will you blow in this thing for me? It has scheduled tests, so you can set it up. I want to be tested at 7 a.m., noon, and right before dinner. You could set it up to where your results get sent to an accountability partner. That could be your therapist. That could be one of your sober supports. You obviously will have influence on where the results are sent to. Again, SoberLink doesn't take the place of Alcoholics Anonymous. It doesn't take the place of addiction treatment, but it's an added tool, right? We oftentimes talk about tools in our toolbox when we want to stay sober, and SoberLink is a great resource. And I've seen people utilize it, and just knowing that it is there, it's, hey, I got to blow in this thing. It can help you in your sobriety journey. So we're super glad that we've gotten to get involved with SoberLink and have them now as a sponsor. And because they are so generous, they wanted to offer you a discount. And you can go to soberlink.com/RRT to receive 50% off of your device.
I could say that it, growing up in the church, it was, a lot of the things that, that I had been used to in church and in that spiritual walk was changing for me for the better. Definitely for the better. But, when things start to get better in life, that these little areas of weaknesses, like evil just finds that little crack and kind of like exploits it and pushes it. And then next thing you know, you're just like, whoa, how did that happen? Enter alcoholism. And that was that was, it's crazy to say, that was my safe space.
Do you remember when you first realized that this is out of control?
I do. Man, I do. It was late spring of 2023. And at this point I had been drinking pretty heavily consistently, drunk every day for probably 4 to 5 months. And it was in 2023. And I was looking at a bottle of gin on my counter where I kept it right by the stove, and it's clear as day. It was like a real moment in life. I looked at that bottle and thought, man, like, if I don't get control of you, this is going to be a problem. And I remember thinking, I know how people become alcoholics because before I couldn't understand it. But when I looked at that bottle, distinctly remember thinking, this has a potential to be a real problem. But, I'm moving and there's brighter horizons, just a couple months away. And, maybe just moving, changing my whole, area is going to help with that. But wherever I go, there I am. And it didn't work.
I thought I remember thinking if we just moved that it would get better too.
Yep.
That's one of the biggest, I say it all the time. We look for external solutions for an internal problem.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times moving is one of those things. But the problem is wherever we go, there we are.
Yeah.
Did you think this to yourself? Let me just get through the move and then I'll deal with this?
Yes. Yeah, totally.
And can you take us to a moment when you were moved and you thought to yourself, okay, I need to fix this. I need to get a handle on this, but I'll do it tomorrow.
So this is the way alcoholics think. We can speak to each other like this, and because we know how that works. And it was always tomorrow. I'm not drinking. Tomorrow I'm not drinking. Today I'm going to drink today. Tomorrow I'll wean off. I'm really going to start tomorrow. Yeah. It was it was the fall. It was fall of 2023 after we had moved, and we kind of got settled and working. And I was working at this point. I had been working 100% remotely in case management for what, honey, like seven months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I would wake up. Well, it started like day drinking. It was, like day drinking. And then it got to the point where, and it is so typical of we alcoholics, that time just gradually moves up, like nothing until 4 or 5 when I get off work. And, then I can start. And then it was like, well, I mean, it's 2:00. It's basically 4. I'll just have a little sip. And, then it's like, well, it's lunch. It's lunchtime. I'm just I'm just going to have a couple beers with lunch or a couple shots with lunch. Liquor was my thing. I used beer to hydrate, White Claws were that was like sustenance water for me.
It's true.
And it got to be lunch. And then, man, it got to be like, okay, I'm waking up and I can't type on the keyboard and I can barely walk to the bathroom. So it's like, well, I need to get this day started. And so let's have a couple of shots before work. And as a nurse, I'm sitting at my computer and thinking, oh, after a couple of shots at, 8 in the morning, and I thought, man, I feel great. This is all I needed, was to get my day started with some gin. And as a nurse, I'm thinking like, what on earth? That's not how you start your day. That to feel good and functional after a couple shots, there is something so wrong with that. The crazy thing is, after coming here the second time and reading the big book, that's a story. That's a thing with Dr. Bob. I think it was Bill Wilson that picked him up in the morning before a surgery, and he couldn't function. He was like shaking it. So, Bill reached back and, gave him a beer before the surgery. And that was how he could function to do the surgery, and he got it done. But reading reading the big book was the story of my life just playing out. And it was written almost 100 years ago. It's crazy.
Speaking to during that period of time, as a family member, as a spouse, you know what's happening. The sneakiness, of, oh, I just need to go in the closet. And, because he would hide it in the closet. He would hide it in the garage. He would hide it in his truck. I mean, I knew I was in denial, but I knew what he was doing. And he was lying about what he was doing. But as a spouse or as somebody with somebody, in your gut what is going, something's not right. And I think I just denied the fact that first thing he would do as soon as he put his feet on the ground is he would go into the closet and then go to the bathroom. And I'm like, why is he going to the closet before he goes to the bathroom? And he would make up some lie why he was in there. But I knew he was hiding it in his, jacket pockets of his coats. I knew he would go out to the garage and I would be like, why are you going out to the garage? And he would get defensive, like, what? I can't walk around in my own house? I live here. Why can't? But people just don't randomly walk out to the garage 5 times just to see what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if the baseball gloves are still in the corner.
Yes. Right? Just checking to get ideas of what I want to do out here. I knew I could. He was just, and lying was so foreign in our marriage that I was so hurt because I took our marriage vows and tried to apply it to his alcoholism. We took vows to love and honor each other and, not lie. And so I would make him promise me, because Marshall does not promise. He does not promise anything. Again, something else that he never does. So I would make him promise me you're not drinking. Promise me that this is going to get better. Promise me, because there was a third entity in our marriage. It was Marshall and I, and then this thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that thing came before me. Mm-hmm. And for the previous years of our marriage, that would have never happened, ever. That just would have never happened. And all of a sudden we had 3 things in our marriage.
Yeah, we did.
And I knew that. I was fighting for that and using our marriage vows against it.
What do you mean by that? like my ears kind of perked up when you said I tried applying our vows to his alcoholism.
When you take vows to, like, those vows are very deep, and what he was doing was against those. Like, it was against those vows. And so, whenever he would lie to me, or whenever he would do something, I can't, other than just the straight lying, like, we took vows to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not doing that now. Like, we've always taken those very deeply, and so for him to start acting the way that he did went against everything that we took vows towards.
Yeah.
Like, it was, his actions were going against our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good thing to mention too. How long have you guys been married?
3 years.
It'll be 20. We got married in 2002, so it will be 23 years this year. Doing that?
24.
And how long were you guys dating before you got married?
We were dating, engaged, and married within a year.
Mm-hmm. Well,
which was quick.
Basically, kind of right out of high school / college. Did you go to? Well, you went. You went for hair school, and then you went to school to become a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have been together longer than you haven't been.
Correct.
At this point,
that's right.
So. And the reason I bring that up is especially in this situation, because I find it so fascinating that, let's call it what it is. This alcoholism is new, even today. Like, this is still a new thing for the both of you, because you have, let's just call it, almost 20 years of it not being an issue. And I think this is a good point to bring up to the listeners too, that oftentimes when we hear of somebody being an alcoholic, it's slow and progressive. It starts at a young age. Like, and I'll use myself as an example, started drinking at such a young age. And, it progressed up until I was 26. But you didn't even really start really drinking until 40.
I drank.
But not
but not alcoholically until 40. Yeah.
Like, you would have a beer here and there.
Yeah.
Or a glass of wine at dinner or whatever.
Right.
So, all to say that, like, this, when we say it's slow and I say this all the time, it's slow and progressive until it's not, and then it becomes fast and aggressive. And that is the situation that we have here. But it was even less on the slow and progressive. I mean, you in the span of 3 years, potentially, you went from, having a beer here and there to fast forward 3 years later, you just said that you couldn't type on the keyboard or walk to the bathroom. Was that from withdrawals?
That was from withdrawals, yeah.
You don't hear that a lot. So, I mean, you're the real deal, dude.
Oh, yeah. When I found it, it was like, so this is what's been missing for, I've been, But it's, along the same lines, it's, you hear about this, like these behaviors, like these obsessive behaviors kind of, can like be like the predecessor to alcoholism. And, like Abby said, there were things that, that when I got my mind around something, it was I wanted it and I was all in, and it was like that alcoholic thinking.
It was your solution.
Even. And then when alcohol came into the picture, I was all in, man.
Yeah.
I was all in.
So I want to just talk briefly, because I want to get more into the, like, what it's been like now, because you've been sober now for how long?
9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
You had your first tour here.
I did.
Abby, take us through briefly Like Liz reached out, he came. What I'm trying to unpack here is knowing what we know now,
Mm-hmm.
what we would have, if anything, done differently the first time. And maybe there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
There was nothing that was gonna that anybody could have done differently. He came out of that first experience still thinking he didn't have a problem. Like, he came home thinking that he had curbed the alcoholism, but he was going to be a gentleman's drinker. Like, he was somehow going to be able to come home and go back to like the way that he was before. I didn't know that.
You didn't know what?
I didn't know that was what his goal was. Like, when we were on the phone, I was like, we're done with this. We're never going back. You just took 2 months away from our family to go fix yourself, and you're not coming home to be a gentleman's drinker. Like, you can never drink again. Like, I watched your stuff. I mean, there's just no way. But Marshall had a different idea, and he tried to consume almost immediately on his own terms. The first time I caught him with alcohol in his breath, it was just more lies. Like, it was, it was just lies. I can't describe it to you any other way. It just was like, it might be this or it might be that. I thought it was this. I thought it was that. And then the worst thing for me would be to go to work because I didn't know what I was going to come home to. Like, is he really going to be sober or am I going to find something else? And he wasn't doing the step work. He wasn't doing the work that he was supposed to be doing, that he was left with. Like, whenever he and Hannah had talked, there was X, Y, and Z of what he had to do, and he wasn't doing any of it. And then I was just angry. Like, I was just angry, just annoyed, not even annoyed, just so deeply betrayed. Like, nobody had ever been, like, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And then he just started consuming again with different things. And he was home. He got home the beginning of August, and by October, I knew that he was regularly consuming, but he was still lying to me about it. And I think that was the part, like, if I could speak to anybody who has to deal with something like this, is he later told me I was right every single time. Whenever he would straight-face lie to me and tell me that he was not drinking, he was. And he did tell me that later on. But if your gut tells you that is what is happening, and not even your gut, like, I'm a smart woman. I'm smart in other different aspects of life. So for him to insult me and tell me that he was not was like...
It was gaslighting.
Yes! He was gaslighting me, and I knew that he was doing it. And then I just told him, I was like, you can't stay here. Like, I mean, luckily, Marshall's heart has always been receptive to what I have suggested to him, but I just knew he couldn't go home. Like, he couldn't stay. And he said, well, let's just go back home. Let's move back home. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I was like, no, I had already talked to you. I was like, no, you're going back to Florida. Like,
back home to Newcastle. That was going to be that was a solution for you.
It's crazy, isn't it?
That is crazy. That, my friend, is a definition of delusion.
Yeah.
Or insanity.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
He just, I think, thought going home was going to be the solution. Let's just go home where it's safe and everything will be fine. And I just was so angry. I just didn't even want him there. Like, I really wanted him anywhere but where we were.
Do you feel like you kind of just detached?
Yes.
From it?
Yes.
Like, got to the point where, pardon my French, at this point, I don't even give a fuck.
Yeah. Like, I loved him. That was what was really hard because we have the history. It's like caring about somebody very deeply because of all of the things that you have shared, but then like getting to this point where you're just like, what are you doing? Like, this
You're
is
disgusted.
just dumb. It was just dumb. Yeah. But he was, I said, you're going back to Florida. Like, that's just what's going to happen. Like, there is no other option. Like, you have to go back there. Because you can't stay here. Can't stay here, and nobody at home is going to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And reluctantly, not even so much reluctantly, I mean, he was in tears, sobbing. I mean, I'm seeing my husband on the floor just sobbing at my feet, like, let's just go home. Like, please don't leave me. I'm so sorry. And still having to have that, like, that guard up where you're just like, kind of like a mom to a parent, where you're like, this is just what we're going to do, honey. This is just the way that it is.
Yeah. Like, I want my PlayStation controller.
That's basically what it was. That's what I felt like. Yeah. Like, I can remember we were in the bedroom and he was like, I just want to go home. And I'm like, sorry, you already lost your privileges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you keep it up, you're not going to get dessert.
That's right.
Looking back on it, I can laugh, but it was so devastating.
Well, and here's the thing, and we can sit back and laugh about this now because it is comical. It really is to see where
crazy
this stuff takes us to, and the ways that we react and the ways that we it's insane. So, Marshall, let me ask you this. Do you feel going home when you did and then coming out of it was necessary?
Going home where? Going home to
when you went back to North Carolina the first time?
Uh-huh.
Do you feel like that was probably good that happened?
Oh, hands down. Yes. In hindsight.
Yeah.
If you're asking in hindsight, would I change anything?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No. No. And you know what? And I didn't, I would love to say, yeah, like I'd love to go back and change that. But the big book tells me that, that wishing for stuff like that is not going to bring me to where I am today. And I think that's an important thing. There's no secret that Marshall, had a lot of hangups about AA in general. And, and I had, what I thought were really like, were valid reasons for, the history of Bill Wilson and, and even the likes of Carl Jung. And, I had reasons to question these guys and to, they kind of landed on my radar as something that they, really that they weren't. But, coming back the second time, it was really important because two things happened. Well, there were two people in my life, who were really important to me. I'm gonna say who they were. It was being in group with Maya, and I was walking her through. I was walking her through these reasons that, like I need to look at things like, other, recovery programs, the support group recovery programs. I wanted to try this and I wanted to try this. I don't like AA because of this reason, the Bill Wilson and, and these guys that he surrounded himself with. And I just I can't do that. I want to be sober, and give her this long litany of things. And she kind of she did the Maya thing, where she drops her shoulders, she drops her hands. And she just looked at me like, Marshall, there's a bunch of expletives also. She said, "You are making me exhausted over intellectualizing all of this stuff." She said, I'm not telling you that you need to be neck deep in AA tomorrow and that you need to buy in." She said, I would love for you to say that you're just willing to try it. And, Steve was sitting off to her left, and he's just kind of nodding like, yeah, try it. All right. So I said, okay, all right, Maya, I'm going to try it. And it wasn't even a couple days later. It was the 24th of October. I've been talking back and forth to one of my very, very dear friends. His name is Mark, and from back in Newcastle. And I woke up in the morning and I got a text from him because he and I talked a lot about AA and Bill Wilson and what my concerns are. And I woke up in the morning and I got a text from him, and he says, "Man, like I couldn't sleep at all last night. I was having trouble sleeping and you were on my mind." And he said, "Look, man, like I just feel like I need to tell you that I think you should maybe just try AA. Take what you can get from it. If Bill Wilson was a human, he of course, he may have this history that you're concerned about and this and that, but he realized at some point in his life that that those wrongs were made right, and that he has a heart for alcoholics, and it might not hurt if you just give it a try." So between Maya and Mark, that was like, okay, all right, like I'm giving myself permission, to jump into this thing. And I started reading the big book, purposefully at that time. And doggone it, man, I got 20 pages into that book, 20 pages. And I'm thinking, these guys, like they know alcoholics. They kind of know me. And when I hit page 20, it was like page 20 through 22, where Bill talks about, the social drinker, the moderate drinker, the heavy drinker, and the real alcoholic. I remember I was sitting over at the house, man, sitting at the house, and I'm at the table reading this. And I put the book down after reading pages 20 to 22. I was like, guys, have you read this book? I mean, you seriously need to read this book. And I proceeded to read to them, like, you guys need to hear this. Like, this is totally me. I am a perfectly reasonable, relatively reasonable guy outside of alcohol. But you introduce alcohol. And I am a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Nightmare.
I'm a nightmare. I am a nightmare. And it was describing my actions to a T. So at that point, yeah, man, I had to read the book. I had to read more about me. I had to read more about my life. And, at that, and I'm, getting a sponsor and working the steps and everything. That was a real eye-opening experience. And that didn't happen until I came back. The first time I was so happy that I could go for so long without a drink that was like my high, that I was able to ride and think I can function normally, but it wasn't, that didn't do it for me. That didn't keep me from drinking.
Mm-mm. I remember when I caught you after you drank a beer, and I think because it had been so many days in between, this is whenever he came home the first time. He had gone to Sheets, and the story was
Sheets.
the story was he had gone to Sheets and got a pounder or whatever, which he probably chugged from Sheets to home.
Sheets, in case anybody's wondering, is equivalent to Wawa, but it's a Northeast version of Wawa.
Mm-hmm.
And he was fixing something underneath the kitchen sink at one of the at our rental where we were at, and he was starting to slur his words. We were talking about the kids, and I knew what was going on at that point. And he stood up and he went to walk outside, and he's like, "Man, I can't even drink one beer," because you couldn't even drink it in moderation. Like, you pounded it from the gas station to home, and were like, it was like when he came home and all of these light bulb moments went off, like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And I think for me, I realized by the time that I sent him off again the second time that I would never do that again. I'll never do that again. You know, the kids deserve better than that. I deserve better than that. We love him, but I won't put the kids and I in a position where anything will ever come before us again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the way it has to be. And he knows that.
I do.
So, got a couple minutes left. 9 months sober now. Quality sobriety.
Quality sobriety, man. Yeah, it's been quality.
What is, and I agree. I think you going home that first time was necessary to really feel the power of this. That relapse, I think, was a necessary evil. I think it had to happen. Yeah.
I don't think he would have realized that he really was an alcoholic until that happened. Like, he would have not, he would have not understood the magnitude of what was trying to overtake him unless he had came home that first time.
Yeah. It's not necessary for everybody, but sometimes it's, you know, and it even says it in the big book. If you think that you're different, go out and try some controlled drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for people like you and I, that just can't happen. Abby, you may be able to have a glass of wine and be totally fine. But for us, it doesn't happen. So, all right, let's end with this. Is your marriage, let's reflect on, you know, the past. Well, let's just reflect on your whole marriage.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that this whole process over the last couple of years, if you can reflect on the last 9 months, Marshall, you stay doing the deal for your sobriety, stay grounded, you know, you continue to build on your foundation of sobriety. Do you think that this whole experience has overall been probably healthy or beneficial to your marriage?
Yes, because there were things leading up to that point that we needed to address that we didn't, that led us to his alcohol. I should have stood up for myself long before I did, long before we ever left the state of Pennsylvania. But I needed to learn boundaries. I needed to learn all kinds of things that we should have. And I think because we got married young, like a lot of the stuff we didn't really figure out or learn. But the path that we are on today, as of today, I like this path. I like where we're at now. It's been horrible and hard. But since he has been home, he has used less words and more actions to prove to me and the kids that we're safe. Because that is the kids and I need to feel safe to continue to move forward with him. And so far he's doing the work. He's doing the steps. He's doing the right things for that. So yes, where we are at today, I like the path that we're on today.
Okay. Marshall?
Like
yeah, man. You know, like, I don't want to give my secrets away here. So Abby might have to hold her ears. I'm teasing, sweetie. You know, Eric says some things. I've picked up so much from being here, and when I'm faced with and recover in the program, like when I'm faced with a like a challenge, first of all, I need to say that the challenges, the challenges that I face, I would go so far as to say that the challenges that we alcoholics face, that while we are actively drinking or in addiction, that would have been bone crushing devastation prior to drinking and especially during drinking. These challenges are like, okay, that's a little road bump. That's a little road bump. You know what? The challenges, it's like, hey, you know what? I can face this challenge because one, it's not as bad as drinking or being in active addiction. And two, I am equipped. And it's so important to understand this. I'm equipped to handle these challenges. Because I am sober and I am not drinking today. So, the prospect of, packing up and moving again to North Carolina, it's like, oh yeah, all right. I get to pack up. I get to pack up again, and I get to take my family back because, man, like Abby and the kids, they really they have a life in North Carolina. And, we had talked a while, talked to a lot, about moving to South Florida. And, reflecting on that and the life that we had built in the life that they had built in North Carolina, I was drunk. I was drunk most of the time. I didn't even experience it. There is like this big part of me that says, you know what, like you should go back to North Carolina and get your family back to the life that they left. So it's like this second chance. It's like this second chance squared, with sobriety and getting, back to where we were. And Tom, I may have forgotten the question.
No, you answered it.
Okay.
No, you did. I mean, basically, I just asked, like, is your marriage better now?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That was a little tangent. Eric would say, when he's faced with a challenge, because he says this all the time. When I wake up in the morning, and I am, for whatever it is, I am 12-stepping. I'm 12-stepping from the time I wake up in the morning. If he would say, if Allie and I get into an argument or something like that, or we have a conflict, I need to work those 12 steps on my wife. I need to work the 12 steps with whatever comes my way. And he's right. He's right about that. Admitting I am powerless. I'm powerless over Abby's decisions. I don't want power over Abby's decisions. But sometimes Abby will say things. Will say something like, I'm nervous about doing this and doing this, or and previously that would be like a thing for me that is like, okay, I need to fix that. I need to fix whatever it is. I'm nervous that, I'm not going to make it to the gas station to put gas in the car or something. I would make that my problem. And I would make that a very big thing. Like, okay, well, I can't rest. I can't sleep. I can't do anything until somehow I manage to drill a well in the backyard and get crude oil and, turn that into gasoline to put in the car.
Over-intellectualizing.
Thank you. That's right. That's right. So now I don't do that. I can't do that. I would make everything, something that Marshall can solve and something that I can, for lack of better words, control to make life easy. It's not about making life easy.
You always made it hard on yourself. Harder.
It's made it so hard. So hard. Steamroller. It's just a crazy steamroller. And I would like to, for just a minute here, talk about something that, that was also a big change and a big thing, and something that I really liked that Abby did was during family weekend. She was in North Carolina, and I was here, and we were in the conference room, with a bunch of people, and Abby wrote an impact letter.
I was home by then.
That's right. Yeah, you were home by then. You were not home. You were in Pennsylvania. And an impact letter is a letter from a family member to the alcoholic. And it's a written letter, and it's read to the alcoholic about all of the ways that the alcoholic and their alcoholism has had an impact on the loved one's life. So Abby wrote this letter to me, and I loved the fact that she was able to take that stand, and she was given that opportunity to talk about all of the negative ways that I had affected her life, our lives, and our marriage and our kids. And it's really funny, we've been talking about Liz every once in a while. Liz is Abby's youngest sister, and Liz and I are very close, and she's like one of my best friends in the world, really. And it was a couple weeks after that, Liz wrote a letter. Liz doesn't do anything unintentionally at all. And she wrote me this letter, and it was an impact letter. And Hannah wanted me to read it with her. Hannah wanted me to read it with Hannah in one of our sessions. And I didn't want to, because it was, I know Liz was, she was going to bring the heat. She was going to be honest. And, so I read the letter, and, and I'm thinking, Liz, she doesn't do anything unintentionally. She researched, what to write, what to do. And come to find out, I talked to Liz for the first time, maybe 3 weeks ago or so. And come to find out, she wanted to write a letter to me just to tell her. She had no idea what an impact letter was. And those two letters were like that. That was really, really heavy. And it's still way. I only read Liz's letter once. And I think I could read it word for word. But it's just it's important for the alcoholic to know that that you have a potential to really be a steamroller and to burn everything to the ground around you. And it's totally normal for you to go to that bottle and to seek that reliable response that you're going to find in the bottle. And you will continue to search for that response in the bottle until you're able to make that spiritual move for yourself, to change your life. You have made the decision to jump into a spiritual realm that you shouldn't be in with alcohol, because it's no secret. That's why it's called a spirit. The liquor comes from the word elixir. Spirit is spirit. Alcohol is, basically alcohol a ghoul. And it's important to realize that whether you know it or not, you've entered a spiritual war when you've decided to start, or you haven't decided, when you start drinking alcoholically. And it's only a spiritual awakening that's going to get you out of that war.
It's always deep.
Yeah, that was good.
It's always deep.
I'm going to have to clip that and just make it its own
entity,
its own little video. Well, listen, for what it's worth, guys, you guys are crushing it now. This is what it's all about. Well, hey, listen, I was a small part of it.
You were the light in the darkness.
Yeah. And it's been an honor to be part of this journey. And it holds a special place in my heart too, given where we all grew up, and I'm getting ready to head back to Newcastle in a few weeks, but only for 5 days.
If it's any comfort, we'll be there too.
Oh, well, maybe we should grab lunch or something.
That would be great.
Go to like Coney Island or something.
That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah.
Take the kids.
Yeah. I don't have anything else. I think that was great. You guys are a true representation of what recovery can do within a marriage.
Right.
And so if there's any of you out there watching or listening that, you have a spouse that is going through this is a direct representation of what can happen. And it's beautiful. It really is. So appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.